Hello, hello, and welcome to CatalystMLM. I'm Brian Switchko, and today on the show we have Marquel Russell. Marquel knew from an early age, probably from the age of birth, that he wanted to be an entrepreneur. He came from the entertainment industry doing marketing and promotion for venues across the country, discovered and successfully built network marketing offline, and then migrated to the web to succeed and exceed online. He values time grooming his son into the man he was meant to be, spending time with his family. Thanks so much for being on.
Thank you for having me, man. I'm excited.
So tell me about the early years, because I love little kid entrepreneur stories turning into big kid fun and growth and business. Tell me about that.
Absolutely. Well, my earlier years, Brian, and first off, thank you for all the value that you give into the marketplace. It's amazing. I've been checking out your blog and checked out some interviews, and it's phenomenal, man. I'm excited about what you're doing and what's going to happen in the very near future. So as far as my story, I'm gonna just kind of go back and I'm gonna give you the abridged version. But growing up where I'm from, I grew up in a single parent home, drug infested environment, and where I grew up, there was really only two things that was kind of laid out for you. You either was going to work a job. The ideal job at that time was working for the city. And if you're not familiar with that, that's those gentlemen who have the little orange neon jackets, they're laying concrete, they're fixing the telephone lights, they're doing the trash. And I was like, I just don't see that from my life. So everybody who I knew, they worked a job, okay? And at the end, Friday and Saturday, all of our parents, they worked, or our grandparents or aunts and uncles, well, all we knew was they worked. Even when we got home from school, they weren't there because they worked. But Friday and Saturday on payday, they were broke. So I used to always be like, how can somebody work all week, all day, and still be broke? So at that point, I automatically knew that wasn't going to be my route. So the only other option, all of my cousins and the people who I saw who were successful, they were in the streets dealing drugs. And they all said, okay, it's either you're going to do this or you're going to go play professional sports or be a rapper or a singer or something like that. And it was like, well, it's a very small thing, to do. So I said, okay, I'm going to the NBA. And, my mom was always like, she never discouraged me, but she was, says, have something to fall back on. But one thing led to another. I wanted to make some money. Now, I ended up in the streets, doing my thing in the streets. And one thing led to another. Started going to jail at a very young age. Actually dropped out of high school in 10th grade. So I have a 9th grade education. And kind of just went full throttle in that direction. And as I said, one thing led to another. Started getting in trouble back and forth. Had a son when I was 19. And I was actually in jail at the time. So at that point, I was like, man, something has to change. I got to do something. So I was like, let me draw the line and say, I'm going to get out, do the right thing, and I'm going to get 2 jobs. I'm going to get 2 jobs because I know I like money. I need money, so I'm going to get 2 jobs. Got out, tried that. But we all know it's kind of hard to get a real job, with the kind of background that I had and with the education level that I had as far as schooling. So I got a job working at a truck stop. And one day I did the math. We got paid about $8 an hour changing oil on big rigs, changing tires. And I looked at the pricing, and it was $150 per truck that we did. And every hour we did about 2 trucks. So that's about $300 that came in. I was always good at math now. So that was about $300 that came in revenue on my behalf.
Right.
And I got paid $8 of it. So I was like, no way, this is not going to work. So I was like, what can I do? So I kind of went back to my old ways, what I knew best. But at that time, I had the mindset that I'm going to have to do something else. And all of the entertainers in the music industry I looked up to, they started off one way, and they took the money and started something else. Mm-hmm. So I started my entertainment company, as you mentioned earlier, started doing artist management, branding. At that time, I didn't really know what I was doing, but I had a passion for music, and I knew I had to do something else. So I started my own label, started doing club promotions, event promotions, and things of that nature. And it was working out pretty cool. But I was still open because I always wanted more. So I was hanging out in a club one night. I was actually on the way home. A friend of mine was having an album release party. And he called me. He was like, hey, man, come by, man. I'm having my album release party. But by the time, when I said, I'll be there. But I was headed home, and I was like, I'm tired. But I ended up going. I'm a firm believer that nothing happens by mistake. So I ended up going to the event. I guess it was God led me. I mean, I was just riding. I was like, let me go ahead and go. So I went. And I'm hanging out in the club, right? And a gentleman walks up to me and pitches me on network marketing. like blatantly pitches me. He actually thought I was somebody else. He thought I was a friend of mine. He was familiar with my face because he went to school with my younger sisters, but he thought I was somebody else. So he just came to me, man, and just blatantly pitched me. He was new, so you probably can imagine how that pitch went. Hey,
Yeah.
hey, man, it's $500 to get started. We can make money off this, make money off that. Man, it's amazing. Blah blah blah. My upline is in town. He's a multimillionaire. You gotta meet him. Blah blah blah.
Yep.
But as one of my mentors told me, you can never say the wrong thing to the right person.
Right.
I was the right person. So I was like, really? So we exchanged numbers. He called me Monday, invited me out to my very first home meeting. I saw network marketing, the idea of leverage, residual income, and it was history from that point.
That's
so that's
awesome.
my story.
That's amazing. So I mean, like going all the way back, like what made you ask those questions? Because so many other people in that situation, looking at people with multiple jobs, and I mean, just would take that as that's how it has to be. That's how it always is. Like there's no other option. I mean, what made you ask the questions?
Well, meaning when I was younger.
Yeah.
It's just always been something in me. It was like it has to be a better way.
Yeah.
I mean, we see people on TV, we see people successful, we know that people are millionaires and billionaires. So I began. I mean, even then, I was like, well, what's different about these people? I mean, how are they successful? And we, in the hood or in the projects or whatever, struggling, just barely paying your bills, and you got people making more money than they could possibly even handle.
Yeah.
So I'm like, how is that? And it was just something always in me, and I was like, I know that I'm going to be wealthy growing up. I know that I'm going to be wealthy, even if it starts with me.
Right.
I know that it's going to be something. I just knew it in my heart. I have no idea. Maybe it was just something from God. I mean, I just knew that I'm going to do something amazing, even at a young age, whether it's going to be the NBA or music or something. I didn't know it was going to be network marketing because I had no clue what network marketing was at the time.
And did you share that with people, and what kind of feedback did you get? Was it always positive and encouraging, or did you get some not so encouraging advice?
That's a good question. At that time, a lot of people just get blinded by that circumstance. They're like, man, whatever, man. That's not going to happen. All we're going to do is be in the streets. This is what we're going to do, man. We can't have that. Those people are lucky. So you get those kind of things. And I was like, I always been blessed. My mom used to always tell me, and Russells are leaders. So she always planted that inside of me, and I always was a leader. I was blessed to be a leader growing up. Even when I was doing wrong, I could never blame it on anybody else for getting me in trouble, because I was like, hey, I got myself into this situation because I'm a leader. So even then, I was just like, yeah, whatever. If people are doing it, why can't we do it? I mean, and then, of course, it's sometimes stepping stones. Maybe I got to be in the streets and make some money, which will catapult me. I can invest in something else and help me catapult into different things. But, of course, I just knew it was something, even without a negative feedback. Even now, a lot of my friends who I grew up with, brothers and everything, they're still doing the same thing and not even open to this whole world, this phenomenal world that we're in with network marketing, the home business industry. It's amazing.
Right. And when you got started with your first company doing, working with different musicians and in the entertainment industry and doing that, what led you to create that structure of it? I mean, you didn't have any experience doing it, so how did you get started?
Good question. Well, actually, I never was. Could I write raps and stuff like that? Yeah, but that really wasn't my thing. I was never the guy who just wanted to be out on the spotlight and be a rapper or singer. But I was like, okay, I have a business mind. So I was like, okay, I know people who are very talented when it comes to music. But they don't have any drive. They don't have any structure. They don't know how to get themselves out there. Yeah. But I've always been the person that could network. And what was really cool, even when I was doing working with the artist, a friend of mine, his cousin was a club owner.
Right.
And he was like, man, I was telling my cousin about you, man. And he said he wants you to get you in there to get your own night, start promoting the night at the club. And I was like, wow, I never promoted the club before. But he just seen my drive when I used to have an artist, because I just took artists that I knew who was talented. And I was like, man, if we could get your talent out to the world, we can make a lot of money. So I was like, if you believe in me, I believe in you. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, I think a lot of people forget that like tenacity is actually a skill set.
Absolutely.
Because, music or sports or pretty much anything else, those are skill sets. I don't know how to play music. I don't know how to do marketing, whatever it may be. But tenacity is a skill set. And even if you don't know how to do marketing, you can still do it just by virtue of pushing.
Absolutely.
So,
Totally.
so what was your first experience when you got into network marketing after you went to the home meeting? I guess what really attracted you at that meeting? What solidified it for you that was what you wanted to do?
When I went and they were showing me the idea of residual income, of course, I was familiar with residual income from the music industry because we're royalty.
Mm-hmm.
So it's similar. So the idea of residual income, making money when you sleep, making money off the efforts of other people, that all sold me. And the guy who introduced me to it, he was younger than me. So I'm 29 now, he's about 20. So he's about maybe 4 or 5 years younger than me. And he was actually already having success, making money. And I was like, okay, pretty cool. I was like, if he can do it, I know I can do it.
Yeah.
So, and in my mind, like all of us do once we first introduce network marketing, I'm like, okay, I got a big network. I know a lot of people. I know they're all going to join just because I joined.
Yeah.
So, and my brother actually went to the meeting with me, my younger brother, and he actually joined just because I did. Because at this time, they're like, hey, it's $500 to get started. So I'm like, okay, cool. At the end, I'm in. I'm like, do y'all take cash? And they're like, no, you gotta have a card. And I was like, man, I don't have a card, credit card, debit card. I don't know anything about that. So he was like, well, we can go get a prepaid card from Walmart. And I was like, well, I don't know nothing about that. You got to show me how to do it because this is all brand new to me. So just that whole idea of it. And the best thing about it, it was legitimate. I was like, is this legit? And we can make it work. So I showed my mom. I called my mom and I was like, hey, I want you to check this out and let me know your feedback on it. Because I don't know if they're trying to hustle me or scheme me or whatever. She watched the videos and she was like, hey, it could work. If you do it and you market yourself and you put effort into it, you can make it work. So when she gave me the okay, I got in and took off. And I started immediately contacting people. Of course, everybody in my mind who I knew were going to start just because I got into it, they didn't get started. I actually had my grandmother. She was going to get on one of the services. We couldn't get her approved for whatever reason. So I really was at that phase, that initial phase, I started to get discouraged. And I was like, I don't know if I was hustled or if I was schemed or maybe I just need to, this ain't for me. And I was kind of at that phase, which I think we all kind of encountered earlier on.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think there's kind of a myth that people think that there's a type of person that can be successful in network marketing just from the get-go. Right. This person was extremely successful in sales in this field or they're business-minded. And it's like, I don't think I've ever once heard of a story of someone finding network marketing for the first time and succeeding from the get-go. There's always the learning process and you kind of have to readjust and acclimate yourself.
Absolutely. Totally.
So what were some of the challenges that you faced other than, kind of misinterpreting who you thought was going to get involved? What were some of the biggest challenges that turned into the greatest lessons?
Great question. Basically, it was just me getting out of my own way because I tell people all the time that you can't do business, especially network marketing, without the personal development phase. Yeah. So personal development, that was another concept that was brand new to me. Guys like Les Brown, Jim Rohn, John Maxwell, I had never heard of these guys before. So I was like, where has this been all my life? I never heard of this. Why don't they teach this in school?
Yeah. Why
wasn't I taught this growing up? I was just mind blown. Seriously, I was like, Think and Grow Rich. Oh man, you probably can see my bookshelf.
Yeah, I was just looking at it earlier.
Just like I'm a personal development junkie now because the more you grow, the more your business grows. This business becomes easy. So it was just me getting out of my own way. And one of my mentors told me early on that if you could have everything you wanted in life, using the way of thinking that you've always had in the way that you think now, wouldn't you already have it?
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. So at that point, I really made up my mind to get out of my own way and really embrace personal development. Always be working on myself. I'm always listening to some audios. Yep. I'm always reading a book, and always working to just become the best Marquel I can possibly be. And also pour that in other people because if you try to do this business being the person that you are, it's going to be extremely hard. Like one of my mentors, Now Be Quiet, he says it best, I think. Network marketing isn't for you. It's for the person that you're becoming.
I like that. I've never heard that one, and I love that.
That is so powerful because, like you said a few minutes ago, you've never heard that story of somebody who came into network marketing
Yep.
and they were instantly successful, even if they were successful in another field. Because in network marketing, it's a whole nother mindset that you have to adopt if you really want to have success.
That's awesome.
So just that part of me getting out of my own way, that's what really changed everything.
Yeah, and I think pretty much everyone who's ever seen success in network marketing has said, like personal development. I think that the made up ratio, but still, it's like 95% personal development and 5% business.
Exactly.
So what was like the first thing that you remember in terms of personal development? The first book you read, or the first encounter you had with that concept?
The first encounter that I had with personal development was, if I remember correctly, it was Jim Rohn. I think that was my first. And just concept, and it was real simple concepts like profits are better than wages.
Yep.
To increase the amount of income that you want to make, you have to increase the amount of value that you put in the marketplace.
Yeah.
And I think one of my favorites from Jim is God rest his soul. One of my favorites from him was, "Don't wish it was easier. Wish you were better."
I love
Don't
that one.
wish for less problems. Wish for more strength, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
And when I started listening to that over and over and over and over again, you really can't blame anybody else for your circumstances. You only can take responsibility and take action.
Yeah. And did you, and I had the same experience. That wasn't my first experience, but I love that audio. I'll link it below. What was your experience with sharing that with other people? I mean, you're all charged up off of what Jim's saying, and like, oh, I agree, I understand now. You can see the sun. I can see clearly now. I won't sing, right. I promise. What was your experience with sharing that with other people? Did they receive it, or was it hard to get them to accept the message? And like, when you tried to first share that, what happened?
Good question. The reality is most people just aren't open to it. So they could see the transformation in me, but most people just aren't open to it based on their programming. Mm-hmm. Because the way we think simply comes from our beliefs and our mindset, and then our beliefs and our mindset basically comes from our programming. Yeah. So some people are so programmed that they aren't open to it. So once you start thinking, you might get things like, "Oh, well, you're just trying to be positive," or, people just that don't work for everybody. So you get those kind of things, but it really takes people actually being exposed to this type of thing. Because I know at first, when I first saw network marketing, and even after I was in, I was still like, especially after it didn't go as immediately as I thought. Right. But it really took me going to my first company convention. That's why I always promote and tell people, get to events. Even if it's not just your company event, but go to other generic network marketing events or online marketing events, so you can see other people, and experience that on the cellular level, and not just watching the videos online and listen to the audios, but actually go to these events. Because when I went to that first event, that's when I really saw, okay, this is real. They couldn't have tricked this many people. It was thousands of people there, and I was like, they couldn't have tricked all of these people. It has to be real. Yeah. So I came out of that event full speed ahead, and that really got the ball rolling.
That's awesome. And so what changed after that event when you were talking to people that previously you just thought that they would be interested and they weren't? So what was it? How you talked to them? Was it the message? What changed?
I guess it was mainly a lot about my excitement. Once I came out, I had a level of excitement, mm-hmm. because I had really seen the people getting the big checks. I had really seen the people getting the cars. I had really seen regular people like me, were having success. And I always had the mindset, okay, if they can do it, I can do it, especially if they're willing to teach me how to do it. I'll take the action. But you're telling me you're willing to show me how you've made millions of dollars? Okay, if you show me that, I'm all in. So I got excited. I guess it's my fire, my excitement. Yep. And a lot of people was like, okay, let me try this out. At least try it out. So, and I think that's what it was, really that level of excitement. Even though I didn't know everything just yet, right. But just developing those skills. I was more skilled, of course, coming out of the event, because I actually took notes and started to apply what I learned. So it's skill sets that need to be developed, definitely. So that helped out in a major way as well.
Yeah, and that's, I think, Donald Trump and Robert Kiyosaki have a book called Why We Want You to Be Rich.
Right, I like that book.
And it's attractive. You read that title and you're just like, tell me. And when someone's telling you the same thing in network marketing, it's an attractive message. So I think going out there and telling other people that, and I know that you do that as well, because you actively say, this is my goal of how many people I want to help. And how have you, I mean, you say that all over your blog and online. How have people reacted to that, and how have you attracted people to that?
People love it because I always learned the concept that you want to create a vision that other people can fit inside of. You know, so you want to create a vision so big because a lot of people don't have vision
Right.
because of the media, because of their programming. So if you can create a vision that they can fit inside of and that they can just grab onto and just hold on to, they can get excited about that.
Yeah.
So if I say like my vision is to help 100,000 people make their first $100 in business, help 10,000 people fire their boss, help 1,000 people become six-figure earners, and help 100 people become multimillionaires. Now people can see, okay, maybe I don't see myself as being a millionaire,
Right.
but I would love to be one of those six-figure earners. Well, I may not see myself being a six-figure earner, but maybe he can show me how to at least fire my boss.
Right.
Or even if he can just show me how to make my first $100 in business, because I've been trying this thing for about 10 years and haven't made any money. If you can show me how to get in profit, okay, I mean, that's something I can get excited about. And if you can get excited about me showing you how to make a couple extra $100, then we can scale it up and take you, to the next steps in that process, because now you got a belief level going on.
That's awesome. I mean, there's a lot of power in the simplicity of that, because, people will often go and even after someone's signed up and they're like, all right, what do I do now? And they're excited, but also still a little unsure. It's like, all right, do this, do this, do this. We're going to be making six figures, or we're going to be, and a lot of people get scared by that. They think that you're seeing in them something that they don't see in themselves. And there's a benefit to that, which is that you can help them see that. But if you go too far, then it becomes scary and they run away from it. And, the fear of failure and the fear of success are both very dangerous.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned it before in terms of a mentor, but how did you first get your mentor, and what did you learn from that relationship?
Well, here's what I did. When I first got involved, the guy who introduced me to it, he was new. He was having some success, but he was new as well. So after I started having a little success, his upline reached out to me and was like, hey, man, you didn't hit a certain rank, so now I want to work closer with you. Yeah. But his success was okay, too. But as I began to, just take more action. I mean, even it was just imperfect action, but I was taking action, so I began to become on the radar of the other leaders. So their upline, she was at the time, she used to say, and it used to really inspire me. I think that's why she used to tell me. But she was like, if I make $20,000 in a month, that's a bad month for me. And I was like, oh, really? So she invited me out to her house the very first time. And I was like, wow. And she really just kind of took me on her wing. She called me for the first time and just seeing what I was doing. So I just used to stay plugged in, because I was never the type of person who asked anybody for anything, or, or try to, like, I'm a big fan of you, or I'm a groupie, so to say, in the music industry. But I will learn what I can learn. So when somebody's talking who's having success, I'm listening, taking notes, and applying it. And then I'll come upon their radar. But not only that, I wasn't just limited to my company. I actually immersed myself in the industry as a whole. Yep. So I looked and saw who else was having success doing this, even if they're not in my company. Who else is doing this? Who else is having success? Who else in Atlanta is having success with this? Who's having success around the world? And how can I learn from them, take some of their strategies, and start to apply them? Yep. And then I started having what I call virtual mentors. So I may not have met them personally, but I have them on my bookshelf, or I have them on my laptop listening to them. So I'm learning from them, and I started meeting some of these people and actually have worked with a lot of them as I've grown up in the industry. So even if you can't pay somebody to be a mentor or a coach, or your mentor and your upline or your team isn't who can show you how to have a success, maybe you can go further upline, or you can just start immersing yourself in some of the other content that's out there as well. So that was my virtual mentors and my personal mentors as well.
Yeah, people often forget that mentorship can come in various different forms, and especially now with the web. I mean, podcasts, video, audio, YouTube, you name it. People are putting that knowledge out there and being able to absorb it and follow it, and then bump into them at an event 2 years later and say, hey, I've been stalking you, and this is what came out of it.
Right.
They love it. As long as it's not a creepy stalking, it's applying it and being successful stalking.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, when was the first time you started to look towards the web for marketing your business, and not just, bringing in that value to your offline business?
That's a very good question. When I was early on, of course, we know I was having some success, but people were quitting as fast as they were joining. I like to say before the ink was even dry on the application, they were quitting, right? So I was like, man, it has to be a way. I know the leaders aren't just talking, doing the 3-foot rule or doing this or doing that, because they have to, it's all about leveraging, getting the most people in front of it as possible.
Right.
So I was like, okay, what's some other ways I can do it? And it's actually somebody on my team. She actually first introduced me to the concept of attraction marketing. You know, a little ebook we probably heard of before. Yeah. So she told me about it, sent me a text, so I checked it out. And prior to being introduced to network marketing, I never had been online. I never had a Facebook account. Well, we had a Facebook account, and my business partner ran it when we was doing the entertainment thing. Yeah. So he's just post things about the spots that we were promoting, but I wasn't on. I didn't have an email or none of that. So the internet was new to me. So she introduced me to this, and I was like, wow, you can build this business using the internet, sign people up on autopilot, generate leads of people who want to join. So as me being me, I immersed myself into it. So I was like, okay, how do I use this internet to make money?
Right.
Of course, at first, I was spamming all over the place because I thought that's what I was supposed to do.
Right.
And then I started learning, okay, that's not the right thing. So I just start, and what most people make a mistake, and what same thing I did, I was trying to learn everything. So at that point, I kind of paused my offline thing and was just focused on online. So I was trying to learn copywriting, social media, pay-per-click, blogging, video marketing, solo ads. I was trying to learn everything before I took any action, which was a huge mistake because I'm spending out a lot of money, spending out a lot of time, but I'm not getting any results.
Yeah.
So once I really got focused and was like, okay, let me pick one thing or two maybe that I really want to focus on and master. And once I just focused on those one or two things, which happened to be blogging at the time, and then I got into video marketing, and I saw that those two tie together perfectly, and it's a perfect fit with social media. It all kind of tied together, and I just started to take consistent, massive action on that one thing, and that really helped me get a lot of exposure, leads, making money, and the business begins to become very, very easier, and I still embrace offline as well.
Yeah, and you talk about attraction marketing, and I mean, for those who I guess are new to network marketing, attraction marketing is very similar to inbound marketing. Like you make people want to come towards you. You talk about generating leads, but a lot of people start off thinking that they're just going to spam and put links out there and then trick people to put in their email address. And even if that does work, it's not typically and very rarely the type of person that someone wants to work with, because it's like, if you don't stand for anything, you'll fall for everything.
Right.
So when you realized that and you started, changing your ways, what were you doing? What were you putting out there? What kind of value were you doing to generate that interest?
Good question. So what I did, I began to have a huge vision on what value I can bring. So at first I had a very myopic, if that's the correct word, view of network marketing. So I was just looking at my company. But when I came with a, I guess, macro, if I'm using the correct word, view of the industry, and I noticed that there's hundreds of thousands of people joining, tens to 100,000 people joining network marketing every week to every month, which is insane. And I can actually add value to all of them and attract more people to me. So we just kind of came, because people were saying, well, hey, 90 to 95% of people struggle, don't make any money, and it's a 97% failure rate, and which is, it's not necessarily true, because the thing is, most people just quit.
Right.
And the reason they quit because they don't have realistic expectations based on the person who sponsored them, because they sold them on, you get three, they're going to get three, and they're going to get three, and they're going to get three. And before you know it, everybody's making tens of thousands of dollars, and it just don't work like that.
Yeah, you never hear people complaining about 90% of people failing at professional football or becoming a famous rapper. Yeah.
Exactly. You never hear that story, right? But everybody want to go that route.
Yep.
You never heard about that with the lottery, but everybody's still playing the lottery.
Yeah.
So that's crazy. So I was like, okay, this business is really simple. So I really pride myself in making it simple. So I'm like, this business is really simple when you think about it, and more people can actually have success, but you got to have realistic expectations, and you have to know that there are certain skill sets that have to be developed. Yeah. You can't come in just being who you are and think you're going to make millions or hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I was like, okay, let me just start putting out what I've learned. Because a lot of people ask me, well, how do you create so much content? How do you come up with these blog posts? How do you come up with videos? And I was like, let me ask you this. I always like to ask a question. I'm like, have you ever been on a webinar? Yeah. Have you ever been to a seminar? Yeah. Have you ever listened to a podcast? Yeah. Have you ever watched the CatalystMLM show? They're like, yeah. And I'm like, did you learn anything? Yeah. Did you take any notes? Yeah. Well, take one or two of those bullet points and start creating some content, because there's hundreds of thousands of people out there who didn't see the CatalystMLM show yet, who may not been on that webinar that you was on, who may not been to a conference or whatever the case may be. And just by you sharing these little things, you can say, hey, today I want to share with you how to 3 steps to prospecting more, prospecting better, or prospecting more effectively. And it could have been something you learned on the webinar last night, and now you use that as content. Well, I want to share with you today how to do this. And you just share those different things. And now because you're sharing that, the person who came online yesterday, they see you as an expert, even if you've never made any money yet.
You should know that much more.
I tell my coaching clients all the time, all you have to do is be one chapter ahead of the student to be the expert. That's it. You don't have to be this big guru making millions of dollars and have this huge team.
And I guess the caveat to that is, to be one chapter ahead, you have to keep reading.
Exactly. Exactly.
And one of the great I mean, just simple kind of iterations of what you just said that I've heard is, you learn something one day and you teach it the next.
Absolutely.
And people think like, oh, I need to learn pay-per-click advertising. I need to be an expert at it, and then I'm going to start this series. Like, no, you learn one thing, you teach it. You learn one thing, you teach it. And they can be, I mean, I've seen your videos are very short but to the point and valuable, so people can digest them very easily. And video blogging structurally is very easy to do. You have a camera of some kind, you turn it on, and you start talking, and then you put it on the web. So you have to provide that value, but most people who are ambitious and want to help other people are already doing that. So how did you communicate what you were doing, because you were providing value to other people? How did you communicate that to them and teach them how to do the same thing and teach them how to provide their own value?
Well, first thing they got to do is focus on continuous learning. Commit to the continuous learning process. And as you learn, just share. I always teach, learn something, apply it, and then share it. So that's kind of the expert formula. Learn it, apply it, share it. Like a gentleman the other day, he hit me up. He was like, hey, man, I generated 17 leads yesterday. And I was like, really? And I was like, now what you, he did a video. Because he hit me up. He was like, I watched the video marketing webinar. I applied them, and I'm loving it. Probably the best training I've seen so far. So I was like, okay, cool. So he instantly took action. The next day, he was like, man, I generated 17 leads. And I was like, great. I was like, now what you do is shoot another video sharing how you generated those 17 leads. And now what happened is you're going to generate more leads. You're probably going to make your first commission or whatever the case may be. And now you share a video doing that.
Right.
And now you just continuously do that. Even, like I tell people, even if you generate your first lead, now you show, okay, how I generated my first lead online. Because there's hundreds of thousands of people who, in network marketing, who hasn't generated one lead online. So just by you sharing how to generate your first lead, that can really position you amazingly. Like one of my newest coaching clients, he took action. We got his funnel together. He had a guy who he contacted from his list, and he had, he asked him, okay, man, what do you feel like has been holding you back in your business? And the gentleman was like, public speaking. And he was like, well, I've been to Toastmasters. I've done a lot of public speaking training. I actually offer coaching in that area. Because I told him, hey, man, don't be afraid to offer coaching because people want it. So he said, I offer coaching in that area. So he actually got his first coaching client, just by taking simple things like taking what you learn and apply it. Like his claim to fame is he was profitable in his network marketing business in his first 30 days. And most people aren't. Right. So I was like, hey, man, you can create a 7-day boot camp of how to become profitable in your network marketing business in 30 days or less. So we put that together, got his funnel together, and he's been off to the races. So just really taking little things that you learn, and no matter how simple it is, how to set up a Facebook page, how to set up a fan page, how to set up a YouTube account, how to do this graphic if you're good with graphics. But it's just those little simple things that you can share, and it can really transform somebody's life. Just very simple. It doesn't have to be anything big or huge. Just the smallest things. You learn something, and then you watching this webinar. I mean, this interview right now.
Yeah.
Take a few things that you've learned.
Tweet
shoot
it.
a video.
Tweet it.
Tweet it, and you can attract so much. You'll be surprised what'll happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, I mean, that value, a lot of people just don't see it as tangible, and they oh, you know, that person is so much better than me. But you know, again and again and again, leaders share that that's how they got started, was by learning something and teaching it, learning it and teaching it. And what you just shared of helping him to create that funnel to teach something that he had learned. I mean, public speaking is something a lot of people are fearful of. And the fact that he took the effort to go to Toastmasters and improve his skills, now he knows where those people have been coming from, so he can communicate it. But a lot of times people don't connect, you know, wait, I have something of value to teach.
Right.
So was he web savvy before you started working with him, or did he start in the same way that you did?
So pretty much started the same way I did. He's actually an older guy. He's older than me. He already had a Facebook account, so he was familiar just a little bit. But when it came to putting it all together, even with his autoresponder, he had no clue how that worked. But he was open to learning.
Yeah.
So we really dove in. I really showed him how to get it done. Now he doesn't need me. Now we're actually working together in my current business, and we're actually, you know, able to take that relationship even further. Because you'd be surprised, just by you sharing some free value, you'll attract a coaching client who ends up joining your business, and now this could make it be your next 6 or 7 figure earner in your team.
Yep.
Just by you sharing some free value at one point.
Absolutely. And that's, you said it on your site, and it was phrased, I hadn't heard it before, but become the person that you want to recruit.
Exactly. Yeah. I tell my team all the time, if you want to attract a team of committed people, you have to first become committed.
Yep.
You point blank period. You don't have to be a $1 million earner to attract $1 million earners. Yeah. You just have to have those traits. You know, are you efficient with your time? Are you serious about what you're doing? Are you committed? You know, do you talk to people effectively? You know, just those little things like that, you will attract people to you. Just being consistent. I talked to a guy yesterday who joined my team, and he was like, man, I've been following you for the last couple of years. You probably know it, but he was like, what attracted me most about you is your consistency.
Right. And that's, my favorite example of consistency was my first foray into YouTube. And long story short, had a dog, got a puppy, thought it was adorable, so I made it a YouTube channel and wanted to be different than everybody else, so I just decided that it was going to be in the dog's voice. And so I kept posting stuff, and like all the comments were written by the dog, but I did it consistently.
Right.
He has like 3,500 subscribers and has been on like Reddit and BuzzFeed and like has a national licensing contract. Like, it's ridiculous. Wow. And it was sheerly because of consistency. I mean, I know people that literally have a dog that looks exactly like my dog, but you know, it's sheerly because of that consistency. So you have to do something to be able to do it consistently. So what would you recommend to someone who's, all right, I want to create value, I want to put it out there, I want to do it consistently, but how do I get started?
What I would do is, first I would always tell people to create a daily method operation, something that you're going to do every single day.
Yeah.
So I always teach my clients and my team members, your day really, as a business owner, home business owner, because one of my mentors says that you can't do this business full-time if you can't do it part-time.
Yep.
So the first thing you want to do, even if you work 50 hours a day or whatever the case may be, well, you can't work 50 hours a day, but you know what I'm saying. But let's say you take...
You can if you leverage your time.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's say, for instance, you work in a job still. You still want to, even if you're full-time or you're working a job, your day really should break down in 4 components. Number 1 is some kind of physical activity to get your blood pumping. Some personal development, whether it's 10 pages a day, 30 minutes of some audio. Maybe you ride back and forth from work to work, turn off the radio and listen to this audio. If you want to add value, create some content. Say, hey, I'm going to do 1 video per day for the next 90 days. That's what the gentleman did who got the coaching client I was just telling you about. He said, hey, man, I'm doing video marketing. I'm going to do 1 video per day for the next 90 days, and I'm going to commit to connecting with X amount of people personally. So do a piece of content every day, whether it's a blog post or a video, and then focus on how many people you're going to directly connect with every single day, whether it's on Facebook, on the phone, Twitter, or whatever the case may be, how many people you're going to connect with every day. Mm-hmm. So how did you go about making that first piece of content? pull out some of those notes that you've taken and say, okay, hey, I want to share this. Because you took that note for a reason, because it was valuable. So now you shoot a video and share that one point. You might have one page of notes that could turn into 100 videos.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to go through, maybe you got 10 bullet points from a webinar. You don't have to give every 10 points in one video. You can say, hey, over the next 10 days, I'm going to share with you how to really dominate in your network marketing business. Yep. Today, day number 1, I'm going to share with you about prospecting. Make sure you check out tomorrow, because I'm going to dive into how to close effectively.
Right.
You know, and then day number 3, you might do day number 2, and day number 3, I'm going to show you some tips on how to market. Yeah. So just the little things, just anything that you've learned, because we've all learned something, and really own the fact that you have some value. Because if you're watching this, you have some value. If you've ever been on a webinar, you have some value. If you've ever watched a YouTube video, you have some value.
Yeah.
Podcasts, conferences, you have some value. You just have to own that and share.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about that is that the value that has just been shared is now, whoever's watching this, it's their value. And the ideas that it inspired, that's now theirs. It's become theirs, and they can share it. And I think your daily method of operation, kind of just the way that you phrase that, is brilliant, because whoever has ever had any kind of job, especially in anything like retail or food service or anything like that, there is a daily method of operation. You open, you count the money, you put it in the drawer, you get ready, you clean the store, you open the store, and it's just, that is how it's done. So creating your own version of that to grow your network marketing business, it's huge. And that routine creates consistency, and consistency creates growth.
Absolutely. Every time.
Thank you so much for coming on and sharing all that. It's absolutely amazing. And I'll have links below to the podcast, everything that you talked about, all of your mentors, and maybe some of the books I see in the background there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I look forward to having you on again soon.
Absolutely, man. Anytime, man. Just let me know, and keep up the great work.